Welcome all. We can start with about 10 minutes of silent meditation, and then we'll start the sutta discussion. So you get yourself in a position that is comfortable for meditation. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham dhammam sangham namasami. So today selected the sutta to discuss called the Sabbasava Sutta. And it's the second sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya, the Middle Life Discourses. And it's about the asavas, how to abandon, how to destroy the asavas. And the word asava, I have two translations here. Bhante Bodhi has kept with Venerable Nyanamoli's translation as taints for asavas. And that's good, thank you. So Ayya Suvijjana has just put up the sutta. I have both the Bhante Bodhi's and Bhante Sujato's translations. Bhante Sujato defines taints as defilements. He calls this sutta all the defilements. If you have a SuttaCentral, that's what you'll see. And there is like a lot of discussion about what actually the translation should be. There's different translations. You'll see outflows and influences and effluences, and so it's whether it's going outwards, flowing outwards, or flowing inwards. And so there's a whole grammatical discussion about how to actually translate it literally. But that's not as important as what the asavas actually are. And they are a kind of defilement. The asavas are, as we'll see in the sutta, there's 3 asavas that are, which really bind us to samsara. And the first one is well, we could call them taints or defilement of sensual desire for sense pleasures. And then Bhante Sujato says desire for being reborn, and Bhante Bodhi says being. So the bhavasava is a desire to have continued existence. That's another way to understand it. So then the last one is ignorance. So these 3 need to be uprooted for arahantship. So this is a little bit of a how-to list in the sutta. And some people say that the sutta is a little bit out of order, and I can talk about how the process works. So I'll talk about that as we read along. I'll explain that. But there's like 3 parts. The first part is well, I'll talk about it as we read along. So do you want to put the sutta on the screen, please? So here we have it. And I'm going to go back and forth between Bhante Sujato's and Bhante Bodhi's. This is on the screen is Bhante Bodhi's. Thus I have heard, on one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Sawati in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. There he addressed the bhikkhus thus, bhikkhus, Venerable Sir, they replied, the Blessed One said this, bhikkhus, I shall teach you the discourse on the restraint of the taints. Listen and attend closely to what I say. Yes, Venerable Sir, the bhikkhus replied. So, basically, so far, it's pretty much the same. Bhante Sujato says, Mendicants, I will teach you the explanation of the restraint of all the defilements. So right now, he's not speaking about destroying them, but so that they're not out of control and controlling us, that these taints aren't controlling our mind and behavior. And also that if we have them subdued to a certain extent, then we can make progress on the path instead of just all being under their control. And the word restraint here, samvara, I don't see it as an individual word. Huh? Samvara. It's in a compound word, so I'm going to probably get a question mark. But restraining is it's more, there's an idea about really more like guarding or protecting oneself. And so we're protecting ourselves from this restraining the asavas to protect ourselves. And when I've heard that concept, that makes a lot of sense to me rather than just kind of rigid control. But we're protecting ourselves by this kind of restraint. So then the bhikkhus, listen, and then the Lord Buddha says, listen and apply your mind well, and I will speak. And that's what, listen and attend closely, and I shall, to what I shall say. And the yes, Venerable Sir, the bhikkhus replied, the Blessed One said this, bhikkhus, I say that the destruction of the taints is for one who knows and sees, not for one who does not know and see. Who knows and sees what? Wise attention and unwise attention. This is yoniso manasikara and ayoniso manasikara. So some people may be familiar with that Pali term. Bhante Sujato has a different word for it, and he says rational application of mind and irrational application of mind. So I'd rather not get in a discussion about which is the best of these two, but it's how we attend to things. What's important? Are we attending it to wisely, rationally, or irrationally, or unwisely? So, when one attends unwisely, unarisen taints arise, and arisen taints increase. When one attends wisely, the unarisen taints do not arise, and arisen taints are abandoned. So this is the importance of yoniso manasikara, however you translate that word. And some people may have translations that they like, and they can mention that later, but the idea is how we direct our attention, direct our mind, apply the mind So what are we applying or directing our attention to, the mind to, or directing our attention to, and how are we doing it? Are we doing it carelessly or wisely? Careful attention is another translation I've heard for this Yoniso Manasikara. So this is the summary, because I say that the destruction of the taints is for one who knows and sees, for one who does not, for one who does not know and see, for one who knows and sees. What wise attention and unwise attention. When one attends unwisely, unarisen taints arise and arisen taints increase. When one attends wisely, unarisen taints do not arise and arisen taints are abandoned. So we need to know and see both wise attention and unwise attention. I just wanted to reread that because it's also what was on the screen. But to really make a point, this is like the important point here, is how we attend to things and whether it's wise or unwise, and knowing and seeing that for ourselves through our own direct experience. So we can continue with the reading. Can you scroll it, please? Because there are taints that should be, okay. Because there are taints that should be abandoned by seeing, there are taints that should be abandoned by restraining, there are taints that should be abandoned by using, there are taints that should be abandoned by enduring, there are taints that should be abandoned by avoiding, there are taints that should be abandoned by removing, there are taints that should be abandoned by developing. So these are 7. So Bhante Sujato has pretty much the same thing. Some defilements should be given up by seeing, should be given up by restraint, by using, by enduring, by avoiding, by dispelling, and by developing. So the only one that's really different is dispelling rather than abandoning. So now he's going to go into the first of that list. The Lord Buddha is going to start describing defilements to be given up by seeing. That's dasana pahataba asawa. So this is how the asawas are being described, as the way that they are being abandoned or given up. What taints bhikkhus should be abandoned by seeing? Here bhikkhus, an untaught, ordinary person who has no regard for the noble ones is unskilled and undisciplined in their Dhamma, who has no regard for true men or true people, and is unskilled and undisciplined in their Dhamma, does not understand what things are fit for attention and what things are unfit for attention. Since that is so, he or she attends to those things that are unfit for attention, and they does not attend to those things that are fit for attention. What are the things unfit for attention that they attend to? They are the things such that when they attend to them, the unarisen taint of sensual desire arises in them, and the arisen taint of sensual desire increases. The unarisen taint of being or desire for future existence or future birth, rebirth, arises in them, and the arisen taint or defilement of being or desire for rebirth increases. The unarisen taint of ignorance arises in them, and the arisen taint of ignorance increases. These are the things unfit for attention that they attend to. And what are the things fit for attention that they do not attend to? The opposite, of course. They are things that such, when they attend to them, the unarisen taint of sensual desire does not arise in him. So this is a double negative. So they're not paying attention to what prevents the arising, and what and they're actually paying attention to what increases it. The taint of sensual desire, the taint of being, and the taint of the same with this, all three of them, ignorance. So, so knowing and seeing this is the understanding of how we increase suffering for ourselves, how we increase, if we don't see this in ourselves, then it's going to continue this way. These are the things. So let me look at, Bhante Sujato says pretty much the same things. He says, they are the things that when the mind is applied to them, they give rise to unarisen defilements and make arisen defilements grow. The defilements of sensual desire, the desire to be reborn, and ignorance. These are the things to which they apply their mind to, but should not. And what are the things to which they do not apply the mind to and should? They are the things that when the mind is applied to them, they do not give rise to unarisen defilements and give up arisen defilements, the defilements of sensuality or sensual desire, the desire to be reborn, and ignorance. These are the things to which they do not apply the mind, but should. You want to read that next section? It's just. It should be
Number 7.
when what the positive, what they want, what the instructed person should be doing.
This is how he attends what? Number 7, right?
Yeah.
This is how he attends unwisely. Was I in the past? Was I not in the past? What was I in the past? How was I in the past? Having been what did I become in the past? Shall I be in the future? Shall I not be in the future? What shall I be in the future? How shall I be in the future? Having been what shall I become in the future? Or else he is inwardly perplexed about the present, thus, am I? Am I not? What am I? How am I? Where has this being come from? Where will it go?
Does the tangle of view
Shall I
continue?
keep going?
Yeah, you can continue. This is a whole tangle of view.
When he attends unwisely in this way, one of the 6 views arises in him. The view, self exists for me, arises in him as true and established. Or the view, no self exists for me, arises in him as true and established. Or the view, I perceive self with self, arises in him as true and established. Or the view, I perceive not self with self, arises in him as true and established. or the view, I perceive self with not self, arises in him as true and established, or else he has some such view as this. It is this self of mine that speaks and feels and experiences here and there the result of good and bad actions. But this self of mind is permanent, everlasting, eternal, not subject to change, and it will endure as long as eternity. This speculative view, bhikkhus, is called the thicket of views, the wilderness of views, the contortion of views, the vacillation of views, the fetter of views. Fettered by the fetter of views, the untaught ordinary person is not freed from birth, aging, and death, from sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. He is not freed from suffering, I say.
Thank you. That's quite a bit. And during the time of the Buddha, there was a lot of debate about the self and whether the self was eternal or was it and the self is atta, which is comes from Atman. And so there's all these views, and there's a lot of debate. And then some people maybe be pondering this themselves. So some of it is like eternalism, and which we have in this day and age too. I believe in eternal heaven, or some people think there's no afterlife, and so this kind of thing, it's just all speculation because there's nothing that can be proved. No one's really able to prove that. So Bhante Sujato says, this is called a misconception, the thicket of views, the desert of views, the twist of views, the dodge of views, the fetter of views. So, excuse me. So this is the twist and dodging is like likened to, I see Bhante Sujato's translation has to do with like training a horse, and the horse is pulling one way and ducking and moving around, fighting against the bit. So an unlearned ordinary person is fettered by views and not freed from rebirth, old age and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, sadness, and distress. And this is, again, Bhante Sujato's translation. They are not freed from suffering, I say. So this is the what we shouldn't be attending to. It's unwise attending when we have these speculations. So we can go to do you want to read the next? Yeah,
Bhikkhus, a well-taught noble disciple who has regard for noble ones and is skilled and disciplined in their Dhamma, who has regard for true men and is skilled and disciplined in their Dhamma, understands what things are fit for attention and what things are unfit for attention. Since that is so, he does not attend to those things unfit for attention, and he attends to those things fit for attention. What are the things unfit for attention that he does not attend to? They are the things such that when he attends to them, the unarisen taint of sensual desire arises in him, and the arisen taint of ignorance increases. There's an ellipsis.
So he doesn't attend to what increases or brings up the desire for becoming. He doesn't attend to what brings up ignorance, causes ignorance to arise or increase.
These are the things unfit for attention that he does not attend to. And what are the things fit for attention that he attends to? They are the things such that when he attends to them, the unarisen taint of sensual desire does not arise in him, and the arisen taint of ignorance is abandoned. These are the things fit for attention that he attends to. By not attending to things unfit for attention, and by attending to things fit for attention, unarisen taints do not arise in him, and arisen taints are abandoned. He attends wisely. This is suffering. He attends wisely. This is the origin of suffering. He attends wisely. This is the cessation of suffering. He attends wisely. This is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. When he attends wisely in this way, 3 fetters are abandoned in him: personality view, doubt, and adherence to rules and observances. These are called the taints that should be abandoned by seeing.
So this person has just entered the stream. So I think it's like twofold, and that they stop attending to what is bringing or increasing the asavas, and they attend to what they're not they're guarding against, and they're restraining them, and then they attend to what's actually liberating. So they're applying the mind. It says, here's Bhante Sujato's translation: because of not applying the mind to what they should not, and applying the mind to what they should, the unarisen defilements don't arise, and the arisen defilements are given up. So they're decreasing the defilements in their experience. They're not feeding the defilements. They're diminishing them, and then they rationally apply the mind. This is suffering. This is the origin of suffering. This is the cessation of suffering. This is the practice that leads to the cessation of suffering. And as they do so, they give up 3 fetters. And then Bhante Sujato has a kind of different, for Sakaya Ditti, he has substantialist view, something like that, substantialist view, doubt, and misapprehension of precepts and observances. So these are the 3 things, the 3 fetters. They're actually fetters that are abandoned at stream entry. They're destroyed. The fetters are gone. They're destroyed. So this is really significant here. I can read Bhante Sujato's notes here. It says, this is the realization of the 4 Noble Truths. The suttas distinguish between someone who accepts the truth of the Dhamma either by faith or by logic, and someone who truly sees with direct experience. This direct vision, here called rational application of mind, may be expressed in a number of different ways. So this is really deeply seen rather than just agreeing theoretically or logically or on faith. And then then he was referring to these 3 fetters here. They are the stream enterer who has entered the first of the 4 stages of awakening. Seeing the 4 Noble Truths permanently severs these 3 fetters. This is this decisive difference between seeing and knowing by faith or logic. So this is very distinct, and a person really, the knowing is really deep, and it's kind of, I've heard it described as kind of earth shaking or something, that it's just very powerful, deep experience. I've heard this description too of the seeing the Four Noble Truths as one possessing, the stream enters or possesses the Four Noble Truths. So that there's a much deeper understanding and application of this deep experience that they had. So going back up to the top, so this is the destruction of the taints is for one who knows and sees, not for one who does not know and see, who knows and sees what wise attention and unwise attention. So they're wisely attending at this point, and then they're able to see clearly the Four Noble Truths because they've decreased the impact of the asavas. The asavas aren't destroyed, but these three fetters have become destroyed through that wise attention and understanding the difference between wise and unwise attention. So at this point, we could open it up for a little discussion, and please keep your comments brief so there's a time to get, this is quite a lot to cover. The sutta, we're just at the very first of 7. So 7 ways to abandon the asavas. So does anyone have a question or comment? I was trying to get at that, but yes. So Ayya Suvijjana was wondering, because many people talk about pain, physical pain in their meditation. And so looking at it in terms of the Four Noble Truths, well, first part would be actually looking at it wisely, with wise and careful, or the rational application of mind, but understanding that what is the suffering here? Is it physical? Is it mental? Is it my desire to be free from pain? That often is what makes the pain worse. If we have physical pain and maybe we do a little bit to move and to get in a more comfortable position, but that dukkha is always there with the body, especially as you get older. But so I don't know if that's answered Ayya Suvijjana's question, but really contemplating the pain in the body and the discomfort in the mind, and looking at that with wise attention, careful attention, or applying the mind rationally to the situation. Rational application of mind. Using your yoniso manasikara. So Richard has a hand raised. Yes?
Thanks, Maya. In that section 8, where it says the view, this is Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation, the view self-exists arises in him as true. Now the Pali there is ati me atta. And it really means more like existing is myself, It's kind of like that. Existing is myself. And then the next section, the second one is similar, but it's a negative of it. Not existing is myself. And this is the same type of question that Vacchagotta asks in the Ananda Sutta, in the Samyutta Nikaya, fourth book, section 44, the very famous sutra that the Buddha doesn't reply to him. And in there, when Vacchagotta says, how is it now, Master Gota? Is there a self? That's Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation, but it's atiyata. So he's asking, is there an existing? Ati means existing, to exist. Is there an existing self? And then the next one, is there no existing self? So it's that same idea. So the Buddha knows, when someone comes and asks these questions, right, that they've not attained a right view, noble right view. And then if you notice, the rest of these in here are all perceivings, right? Well, perceivings are constantly changing, right? So they're not something to cling to. All the rest of these descriptions here, he perceives this way, he perceives that, or whatever, right? So that's why all of these are indications that a person has not attained a noble right view, which is this first section that you finished. That's noble right view. The next section about restraining, those are path factors 2 through 4.
Yeah, we'll get to those, but
well, it's just a way to think about it as we're going through it. This is all I'm going to say, right?
Okay.
The next one, abandoning, that's path factor 5. And enduring is a continuation of that same path factor. Removing is path factor 6, and developing is 7 and 8. So it's just a way to think about it. I'm not saying anyone has to agree with me, but you might notice that pattern of the way the things are structured as you're going along. Anyways, that's the only comment I wanted to make.
Okay, yeah, thank you for framing it like that. Yeah, it's definitely, and there is a discussion about this sutta that it may have been the order of it as far as someone's development is concerned. What we're coming to next may be what they needed to develop in order to get to the point where they could really penetrate the Four Noble Truths. Because just as you said, these are aids to developing the Noble Eightfold Path. So this is looking at wrong view when you're looking at all these speculations about a self. And then, so it's just exactly what you said. The right view is the view of understanding the Four Noble Truths. It's thank you for pointing that out. So the first one is they've attained a right view and they're enter the stream. And these next 5, these are ways of developing on the path. It's the kind of more practical aspects of the gradual path. And so leading up to stream entry, someone may be working with these, and then after the Seka is still working with these, the second to the once a returner and the non-returner will still be working with these, and these are leading up to the complete destruction of the asavas, which the 7th, actually, the last of these ways to give up the defilements or the asavas or the taints. So we might read through it may be a good idea just to read through the next 5 with out a lot of conversation, and then at that point we could maybe discuss them, because looking at them as a group may be good, just also because of the timing. If we take them one by one. So the first one is the defilements to be given up by restraint. And it did say at the beginning of the sutta that these asavas should be restrained. And there's the word samvara here, and it's just simply translated as restraint. But as I was saying, when you talk about sense restraint, it's guarding or protecting the mind. This is how it's described in other suttas. So it's not like forcing the mind away from something or really blocking something out of the mind, but it's a more gentle guidance. And the Bhante Sujato says, in the gradual training, sense restraint, samvara comes before seeing the Four Noble Truths. The sequence in this sutta does not follow the order of practice. Rather, it starts and ends with the most important items. So the taints, bhikkhu, should be abandoned by restraining. Here, a bhikkhu reflecting wisely. So this is patisankayoniso. And this is reflecting is looking, thinking over something wisely. Abides with the eye faculty restrained, while taints, fixation, and fever might arise in one who abides with the eye faculty unrestrained. There are no taints, fixation, fever in one who abides with the eye faculty restrained, reflecting wisely. And it goes through all of them. The ear faculty, the nose faculty, the tongue faculty, the body faculty, the mind faculty. So this is the 6th sense basis. While taints, fixation, and fever might arise in one who abides with the faculties unrestrained, there are no taints, fixation, and fever in one who abides with the faculties restrained. These are called the taints that should be abandoned by restraining. So Bhante Sujato has pretty much the same, reflecting rationally, they live restraining the faculty of the ear. Oh, this is first he starts with the eye. I skipped over. Take a mendicant who, reflecting rationally, lives restraining the faculty of the eye for distressing and feverish defilements that might arise in someone who lives without the restraint of the eye faculty. They do not arise when there is such restraint. So reflecting wisely, they live restraining the ear, the nose, the tongue, the body, the mind. And that's to avoid distressing and feverish defilements that might arise in someone who lives without restraint of the mind faculty. So you may just, it may be getting to the point that you learn how to restrain yourselves by seeing this. What are they talking about? It's just feverish. If I'm overcome by desire, how uncomfortable is that? If I'm overcome by anger or hatred, or I'm overcome by delusion, it doesn't sound like a very pleasant experience. So this is to protect our minds, to protect ourselves from this. Did you have a comment? So this is one of the first things in the gradual training that is taught to a monastic, but also for lay people. And then it goes in line with what we are attending to, how we are attending to something. And are the defilements increasing or are they decreasing? So this goes right in line with that. And this is defilements given up by using. What are the defilements that should be given up by using? I'm reading Bhikkhu Sujato's because he has more ellipses in here. It's kind of a little bit quicker to go through. Take a mendicant who, reflecting rationally, makes use of robes. So this is Patisankaya Yoniso Chiwara Patisewami. So we should remember when we're putting on our robes or our clothing, why are we dressing ourselves? Only for the sake of warding off cold, heat, for warding off the touch of flies, mosquitoes, wind, sun, and reptiles, and for covering up the private parts. Yawa dewa sitasa patigataya, unhasa patigataya, dam samakasa wata tapasirim sapasam, pasanam patigataya. Yawa dewa hiri, o pina patichadana tam. So this is something that in many monasteries they recite every morning, the four requisites. Rationally, reflecting rationally, they make use of alms food, not for fun, not for indulgence, adornment, or decoration, but only to sustain the body, to avoid harm, to support the spiritual practice. In this way, I shall put an end to all discomfort and not give rise to new discomfort. I will live blamelessly and at ease. So we say this every day, at least once when we're having our meal. And it's a little bit different here. Reflecting wisely, they use alms food neither for amusement, for intoxication, for the sake of physical beauty or attractiveness, but only for the endurance and continuance of the body, for ending discomfort, and for assisting with the holy life. Considering I shall terminate old feelings without arousing new feelings, I shall be healthy and blameless and live in comfort. So we don't overeat and cause discomfort in ourselves. So we're ending the discomfort of hunger without indulging and harming ourselves by eating too much. But we should reflect on why. Why we're using it wisely. This is reflecting on the use of it. Reflecting rationally, they make use of the lodging only for the sake of warding off cold and heat, for warding off the touch of flies, mosquitoes, wind, sun, and reptiles, to shelter from harsh weather and to enjoy retreat. It's a seclusion is another way to say this, for the sake of protecting ourselves from the elements. There's a question? Oh, okay. Let me just finish. I'll go through this section and I'll get to you. We'll just get to that. Because we're almost there. Rationally reflecting, they make use of medicine and supplies for the sick, only to ward off for the sake of warding off pains of illness and promote good health. For the distressing and feverish defilements that might arise in someone who lives without using these things do not arise, and when they are used, these are called the defilements that should be given by using. So there's a question. Do you have the name of the person? Susan? Yes?
Yes, thank you, Ayya. I wanted to see if I could apply the first part to what I've experienced this week. And I think it will. I go to the YMCA and this really nice woman said to me the other day, we were just chit-chatting. She said, "Oh, I started coming here and I wanted to, because the pool, it's a really beautiful place." And she goes, "But I'm not using it." And so this is where my mind went into this is how it happens. So wrong speech. And before I know it, I'm saying some negative thing about the YMCA. And I think this teaching applies to how could I use this teaching to help myself really correct myself? Because this is something I find is hard to really, it's a very deep thing because it happens like, it's not like as, the robes. It's like it happens like by surprise, by somebody I don't know, come in contact with, who says something. And it's my own habitual tendencies that get stirred up. So it really shows where my hindrances are, where I have this negative script running I'm not aware of. So if it's my view, would I be looking at it says in this sutta to really be aware, is part of being aware. So maybe I really start thinking, because I think I am aware, but this comes up, it's kind of like in some deep recesses, it's like unconscious pulls up from these taints that pull up from below that are not in my consciousness. So if you have any suggestions on how to work with that the mouth and the taints, that, when something happens where some contact, maybe a lot of people watch the news and it just stirs up all sorts of things. I don't do that, but I hear others do. And but that can get my whole thing started too. So I stay away from that. But
So I think when we're talking about the restraint, the section on restraint, there is restraint at the mind door. So what's arising in your mind? And so we're applying Yonisamanasikara by saying to myself, oh, when somebody was speaking to me, then this arose really suddenly. And then I said something that was inappropriate. So now you're reflecting back. Okay, that was inappropriate. And so maybe the next time someone is speaking to you, say to myself, oh, when I'm about to speak, is this something I'm going to regret later that I said? Is this inappropriate? This is wise attention, attending wisely, and it may take some practice, but there's a restraint at the mind door that, because it's when you're communicating with people, then it's entirely it's a mental processing. So that's one of the harder ones to deal with. But it's not like with the using, it's more at the restraining. And this is guarding yourself, protecting yourself. How can I protect myself from these unarisen taints from arising or increasing? And then just that, oh, I'm going to try better next time, just to take a few breaths before I say something. But let's see, it is 5 after, and I would like to continue reading through rather than answering a bunch of questions at this time. So so we can finish the sutta. So we're going to read through it, and I'll make some more comments. And actually, when we get through this section, we could, yeah, I'm not sure we'll have the time. So well, we have something else already in mind. So I think, I mean, we don't have to post that one and go on with this one, but we'll see how we go with this. So this is the defilements given up by enduring, and you'll notice this is very similar to the previous one, the defilements by using. And what are the defilements that should be given up by enduring? Take a mendicant who, reflecting rationally, endures cold, heat, hunger, and thirst. They endure the touch of flies, mosquitoes, wind, sun, and reptiles. They endure rude and unwelcome criticism. So here's something for our friend that just spoke. And they put up with physical pain, sharp, severe, acute, unpleasant, and disagreeable, and life-threatening. So this is, we try to do our best to take care of ourselves, but sometimes we just have to endure some things. It's not, we're going to seek these out. For the distressing and feverish defilements might arise in someone who lives without enduring these things, and do not arise when they are endured. So here it is, Patisankhaya Yoniso again. There's a reflecting wisely. And this has to do with like patience and having to do with the quality of our mind. Like if somebody's rude or insulting to us, can we be patient and enduring with that? Maybe even being compassionate. Because we're guarding our minds against increasing defilements or bringing up defilements. This is the whole point of it. So if for some reason we have to be out in the cold, the car breaks down and you're out in the rain trying to change the tire or something. You're making your mind upset about the situation by complaining and getting angry and whatever it is, and it's just going to make the situation worse. So if you do some reflecting and thinking, oh, okay, this is not, being angry and upset is not going to change it. I think this is, so it's more about the quality of the mind, developing equanimity. So this enduring, it's also forbearance and acceptance. So we have to accept that, okay, sometimes people are rude to us. Sometimes the car breaks down at the very wrong time. Whatever it is that we have to endure, just to develop that stability of mind. Defilements given up by avoiding. Now this has to do with the sila. I think maybe Richard had mentioned that. What taints bhikkhus should be abandoned by avoiding. Here a bhikkhu reflecting wisely avoids a wild elephant, a wild horse, a wild bull, a wild dog, a snake, a stump, a bramble patch, chasm, a cliff, a cesspool, a sewer. Reflecting wisely, they avoid sitting on unsuitable seats. So this is being in a situation where you might be have an inappropriate relationship with somebody. So you're in a secluded area with somebody. So you avoid sitting in a situation that might bring up lust with another person. So that has to do with the sila. Wandering into unsuitable resorts, and the resorts has to be to do with the monks where they go for alms, so they don't go to the wrong part of town, which would be not suitable for a bhikkhu. Or say if someone is an alcoholic, they wouldn't say, oh, maybe I should go and sit in the bar and talk with my friends. I won't take a drink. So like you're just kind of setting yourself up for failure, right? So you don't go, it's just walking in inappropriate neighborhoods, mixing with bad friends. Whatever sensible spiritual companions would believe would be a bad setting. So that's how Bhikkhu Sujato says, and associating with bad friends, since if he were to do so, wise companions in this holy life might suspect him of evil conduct. So yeah, we don't want to bring some kind of suspicion upon ourselves, but also putting ourselves in danger. This is what it's talking about. So we try to avoid that as much as possible. So while the taints, fixation, and fever might arise in one who does not avoid these things, there are no taints, fixation, and fever in one who avoids them. These are called the taints that should be abandoned by avoiding. So then we go to removing. What taint should be abandoned by removing. Here a bhikkhu reflecting wisely does not tolerate an arisen thought of sensual desire. He abandons it, removes it, does away with it, annihilates it. This sounds so strong, doesn't it? He does not tolerate an arisen thought of ill will. He does not tolerate an arisen thought of cruelty. He does not tolerate an unwholesome states. He abandons them, removes them, does away with them, and annihilates them. Well, taints, fixation, and fever might arise in one who does not remove these thoughts. There are no taints, fixation, and fever for one who removes them. So Bhante Sujato calls this defilements given up by dispelling. Take a mendicant who, reflecting rationally, doesn't tolerate a sensual, malicious, or cruel thought that has arisen, but gives it up, gets rid of it, eliminates it, and obliterates it. They don't tolerate it, any bad, unskillful qualities that have arisen, but give them up, get rid of them, eliminate them, and obliterate them. So if we see something really harmful arising in our minds, I think this seems really extreme, but if we're going to do, because the mind precedes all actions through body and speech. So he's talking about thoughts of sensual desire, cruelty, and ill will. So I think if you just have kind of a flickering thought, like of irritation or something, you might approach it differently than if you feel like you just want to kill somebody. I mean, it's just, you have to really, a thought of cruelty, like, I see ants and I want to go and get the raid, and I think, okay, I really need to stop that in its tracks, this thought, you know. It does sound rather strong, and a lot of modern meditation teachers, as they say, oh, just be aware. But some thoughts are just very harmful to oneself and others. And the note here, Bhikkhu Sujato is suggesting in Majjhima Nikaya, there's a Santana Vitaka. It's the middle length discourse is 20. And so there are different ways of dispelling these thoughts, and there's like 5 methods. And it is talking about specifically about sensual desire, ill will, and cruelty. And the sensual desire, I think that would be like a really strong lust that would be unappropriate, that's arisen. And for monastic, they can just end their monastic life by inappropriate action in this regard. So this is why I think they're so strong here. So we have to use our wise attention to say to ourselves, how am I going to approach this that's arising in my mind? And it's just, it takes time, but you can really be bringing awareness to what is coming up, and seeing and have fear of the harm of it. Actually, there's another thing is to see the danger. Really, that's like really seeing danger, like seeing the wild elephant or bull or whatever. That's dangerous. I mean, just so this is to distinguish how to act, you know, with how to approach these. So we could we do have the Bojjhangas as the last section, is the defilements given up by developing. And I could just read through these quickly, and then we can just have a little bit of discussion. So what are the defilements that should be given up by developing? It's when a mendicant, reflecting rationally, develops the awakening factors of mindfulness, investigation of principles, energy, rapture, tranquility, immersion, and equanimity, which rely on seclusion, fading away, cessation, ripening, and letting go. For the distressing and feverish defilements that might arise in someone who lives without developing these things do not arise when they are developed. These are called the defilements that should be given up by developing. Now take a mendicant who by seeing has given up the defilements that should be given up by seeing, by restraint. They've given up the defilements that should be given up by restraint, by using. They've given up the defilement by using. By enduring, they've given up the defilement that should be given up by enduring. By avoiding, they've given up the defilement that should be given up by avoiding. By dispelling, they've given up the defilement that should be given up by dispelling. By developing, they've given up the defilements that should be given up by developing. They're called a mendicant who lives having restrained all defilements, who's cut off craving, untied the fetters, and rightly comprehending conceit, has made an end to suffering. That is what the Buddha said. Satisfied, the mendicants approved what the Buddha said. So this is sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So this is arhatship coming to this point when all these ways of abandoning the defilements have been well practiced. And so we can maybe have a little bit of discussion now at this point. There was somebody with the raised hand, and I could go to that person now if they want to say something. Annie. Oh, it's Ananea. Oh, please, Ananea. I think your mic, do you have your mic on?
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay.
When it flipped to the screen, it was in the dark. Well, anyway, I wanted to just mention a couple things. Susan, in wanting to know how to deal with, well, essentially right speech. And just to point out that the first, you already did the first thing, which was that you recognized that it was not a good thing to say, that it wasn't skillful. And so that's number one. And then over the years, just in my own experience, even things like counting, it's like anything that will give you a little bit of separation between the ending of whatever the person has said and your response, so that you don't go into auto response. Because culturally and dispositionally, like if we're a person who tends to have critical views, or like you were quick to say, oh yeah, the Y has these deficiencies or whatever. So you just so recognizing it, what you did, and then trying out some mechanisms that give you a little space so that your skillful mind has the chance to go, that you don't have to respond in an unskillful way. You don't have to join in. If it was a criticism that someone made, you don't have to join in that. You can just either be silent or point out something else that is more skillful or that is beneficial in that particular situation. So anyway, use that if you find that helpful, but it's just a suggestion. It's something that has been helpful to me over the years. Thank you.
So this is a gradual path, and yeah, all the tricks that we may have to work with the defilements, we develop over time, and so we have to see what's appropriate for each situation, and that's why there's these 7. But it culminates in the development of the 7th group here, which is the 7 bojjhangas. And so this last section is what's really actually going to help us completely eradicate the asavas. But in the meantime, we're working with these other ways, like what Ananea was talking about, is that little bit of counting or whatever this is like a way of implying a little bit of restraint. And then you're reflecting, but you're using your yamiso manasikara, thinking, well, is it appropriate for me to say anything at all? Or should I, so for each situation, there's different methods to help us protect us from the arising of unarisen defilements and how to abandon them. So we're working twofold here with all 7 of these. Did you have anything you'd like to add? Ayya Suvijjana, do you have something you'd like to add to this? Ayya Suvijjana is very graciously present here, but she's in retreat mode. So taking time in seclusion is included in this, with resorting to your lodging. And that can be your room. You can set aside a room to be your empty dwelling that you go to for meditation, setting up a really, a corner of your room or something at a time. And this is the internal seclusion. You don't have to have an empty hut in the forest, although that's ideal. Are there any more questions or comments? Richard, yes?
Thank you, Ayya. This sutta starts out talking about an untaught ordinary person who has no regard for noble ones and unskilled in their discipline. So there are suttas where Buddha goes into detail about what this means to be an untaught ordinary person, as opposed to one who has been taught, an ordinary person who has been taught. And it has to do with laws of cause and effect, and knowing that there are other worlds, besides this world, and that there are shramanas and brahmanas, who have gone to these other worlds and know that they exist, and those type of things. And if you think about that, then when you look again at those questions, right? The view, does the self exist for me is true, or is it not? No self, and I perceive self with self and all that. You can see that if a well-taught ordinary person attains to sotapanna and becomes a noble person, you can see why these things don't arise, because in Buddha's understanding, that should be common knowledge, right? That samsara is going on, that, from birth and death to birth and death to birth and death, and these type of things. So you don't have to ask these type of questions, sort of like, who was that European philosopher? Descartes, came up with, I think, therefore I am, because he didn't even know if he existed. It's very similar to this, right? Well, do I exist? Do I not exist? Right? And he's trying to figure it out, right? So he comes out with this idea, well, I think, therefore I am. Okay, so I must exist somehow. He doesn't quite know what it is, right? Or what's going on. He says, okay, I can kind of take that as a first premise, whether that's accurate or not. Philosophers debate that. So anyway, I just wanted to add that in there because, in this particular sutta, he doesn't go into a lot of detail what he means by an untaught ordinary person, but in other suttas, he adds a lot more, respect for father and mother, I think, are another part of that, and those type of things. I don't remember them all off the top of my head, but
yeah, that's part of right view too, the respect for mother and father. But so the person has gone beyond doubt. Their mind isn't going all over the place. So actually the fetter of doubt is gone. And that's it. So that's a good point, that they're no longer a patujana. So they're baffling around in their minds about view of self. I mean, they haven't eradicated self, but they know that all these views are just speculative views, and they don't have any doubts about these. They have a clear idea about, they know what Nibbana is, and they know the self is not dependent on the five khandhas. This is the personality view. And these speculative views about eternity or annihilationism isn't going to bother them. Yeah. So thank you for bringing that up. The Sotapanna is no longer a Patuchana, so they don't have these concerns. So it's about time. I appreciate all your kind attention. I hope this is helpful, even though a lot of it seems to be directed towards monastics. I think you can find within these teachings something that's useful for you and how to apply your mind rationally or having wise attention, attending wisely. This is what we should be aware of. Am I attending wisely? Am I having careful attention at this point? And developing that by seeing that for yourself. So thank you all. We're rearranging the furniture a little bit so I can turn and bow. That's what the clunking noises. So we can turn, if you have a Buddha image in your room, you can turn towards it, or we have this lovely Buddha image here that you're seeing on the screen, so you can bow in that direction if you care. Araham Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddham Bhagavantam Abhivadim Vakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammam Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Sangham Namami. One thing I forgot to mention is this is the lunar, one of those objects in the sky. A lunar anniversary of the awakening the arhantship of Sariputta. And we have an image here. I don't know, it's not very easy to see. We have, yeah, it's a picture anyway on our altar to honor him. And next week, I wasn't aware that this was a special day today, but next week we'll be discussing the sutta where the Venerable Sariputta attains arhantship. Hearing the sutta, it's Digha Naka. I think it's in Majjhima Nikaya. I believe it's 74. So, so we will have that posted, and you can look at it for yourself. And we'll be discussing that sutta in honor of the a week late, but still in honor of Venerable Sariputta. And I heard that he had two sisters that also went forth into monastic life, and I'll find out more about that. I can mention that next week when I find it. They became bhikkhunis after the Venerable Sariputta and attained arhantship, but not all today. So we have a little bit of leeway. So anyway, so I hope you can join in next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ayya.
You,